My name is Marlene Ashford. I'm 34 years old, and until last month, I believed blood was thicker than water. Growing up in Charleston, South Carolina, family meant everything to me. Sunday dinners at my grandmother's oak dining table, laughter echoing through her old brick home, and the smell of her peach cobbler filling the air. But when she passed, her death revealed cracks I never imagined could split our bloodline apart. My cousin Roman was like a brother to me, charming and always quick with a joke. But when it came time to divide my grandmother's inheritance, he showed me a side of himself that was colder than stone. He forged papers, manipulated lawyers, and with one signature, every cent that was meant for me vanished into his pocket. I didn't just lose money that day. I lost faith in the very person I once trusted with my life. I didn't cry when the lawyer told me. I didn't even shout when Roman smirked across the room like he had won some game. Instead, I sat there in my pressed black dress, holding my grandmother's rosary tight in my palm, as though it could keep me from breaking apart. I had spent years taking care of her, driving her to doctor's appointments, cooking meals when she couldn't stand for long, tucking her in with an extra blanket on cold nights. Roman hadn't lifted a finger. Yet there he stood, dressed in his tailored suit, pretending he was the grieving grandson, when everyone in that room knew better. "It's business, Marlene," he whispered as I passed him in the hallway. My jaw tightened, my chest burned, but I said nothing. That night, when I got home to my small apartment, the silence was heavier than grief. I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. The betrayal stung, but what cut deeper was the way Roman severed me completely. He didn't just steal the inheritance. He blocked me on every phone, every social account, like I was the enemy. The cousin who once sneaked me out for ice cream on school nights now erased me from his life without hesitation. I stared at my phone screen for hours, scrolling through old photos of us smiling like fools at the county fair, or arm in arm at my college graduation. Had those moments meant nothing to him? My grandmother used to say, "What's buried in the dark always crawls to the light." At that moment, I didn't know what she meant. But I was about to find out. For 4 days, I carried that pain like a weight chained to my chest. And then on the 4th day, the phone rang, and Roman's name lit up my caller ID, a name I swore I'd never see again. At first, I thought it was some cruel trick. Maybe he wanted to rub salt into the wound, brag about what he'd bought with my grandmother's money. Maybe even gloat about the new car I was sure he would flaunt around town. My hand hovered over the screen, trembling. Against my better judgment, I answered. But instead of arrogance, I heard desperation. His voice cracked like it hadn't since we were kids. "Marlene, I need you," he said, choking on the words. My stomach turned. After everything he'd done, after stealing the roof over my head and the future I had planned, now he wanted something from me? "You don't understand," he whispered quickly before I could hang up. "It's life or death." For a moment, my heart softened. But then came the words that froze my entire body in place. "I need your blood type." The irony was almost cruel enough to laugh at. My cousin, the man who had stripped me of my grandmother's legacy, was now begging for something only I could give. Memories rushed back of the one time my grandmother had mentioned it. I was rare. O negative, the universal donor. Roman, on the other hand, had once been denied during a college blood drive, told his type was scarce. At the time, it was a funny anecdote we laughed about over milkshakes. Now, it was the difference between his life and his death. I pressed the phone tighter to my ear, listening to his ragged breathing, the sound of fear trembling in his chest. A twisted satisfaction stirred inside me. He had taken everything from me, and now the only thing standing between him and the grave was the very person he had betrayed. I asked him what had happened, though a part of me didn't care. He explained in a rushed panic. An accident, a hospital, a desperate search for a match. His voice cracked as he said the words, "They told me you're the only one." I could almost see him, lying in that sterile white room. His confidence shattered. His arrogance stripped away, reduced to nothing more than a man terrified of his own mortality. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. My pulse quickened, not from fear, but from power. For once, I held the cards. For once, he was the one begging, and I was the one who could choose whether he lived to see another sunrise. It was the kind of moment that makes you question everything you thought you knew about forgiveness, family, and justice. But as I stood there in my kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator filling the silence, another voice echoed in my head. My grandmother's. She always told me not to let bitterness rot the soul. "Vengeance tastes sweet, child," she'd say, "but it spoils your spirit if you swallow too much." I closed my eyes, gripping the counter, torn between her wisdom and the raw wound Roman had carved into my life. Part of me wanted to hang up, let him feel the sting of abandonment the way he had left me stranded. Yet another part, small but stubborn, whispered that maybe this was fate's way of balancing the scales. Perhaps justice wasn't about walking away. Perhaps it was about letting him see the cost of his sins with his own eyes. "Why should I help you?" I finally asked, my voice steady but low. On the other end, Roman broke down. I could hear muffled sobs, his pride crumbling like glass beneath his own weight. "Because if you don't, I'll die," he admitted, his words drenched in fear. The boy who once teased me for crying at Disney movies was now begging for his own life. My chest tightened, a war raging inside me. This was my chance, not just for revenge, but for something bigger. Something that could change the story entirely. And as much as my heart screamed to slam the phone down, I couldn't ignore the gravity of the choice pressing against me. My hand shook, but not from weakness. This time, it was from the realization that I was no longer powerless. I looked out the window, the night sky stretching endlessly above Charleston. The streetlights flickered faintly, casting long shadows across the pavement, and for the first time in days, I felt a spark of control. Roman thought money could buy security, that betrayal could bury loyalty. But now, he stood at the mercy of the very cousin he had destroyed. I drew in a deep breath, my fingers curling around the rosary still resting on the counter, the one piece of my grandmother I still had left. It felt like she was with me, watching, waiting to see what I would do. And with that thought, I pressed the phone back to my ear and said the words that would decide everything. "Meet me tomorrow," I whispered coldly. "And don't think for a second this is free." Roman and I had always been more like siblings than cousins. Growing up, our families lived only 2 streets apart, which meant summers spent barefoot on hot sidewalks, sharing melting popsicles, and staying up late under blankets whispering secrets. I used to think Roman was the one person in the world who understood me. He was bold where I was cautious, loud where I was quiet, and somehow that made me feel safe. But the bond we built in childhood didn't survive the storm of adulthood. The cracks began showing when our grandmother grew older and weaker, and responsibility fell unevenly on our shoulders. While I balanced work and caretaking, Roman vanished into nightclubs and schemes. He'd call occasionally, promising to visit, but his promises were like smoke. There for a moment, gone the next. Deep down, I knew he'd changed. I just didn't want to admit how much. I remember the day my grandmother's health took its sharpest turn. It was autumn, the air heavy with the smell of pine and chimney smoke. I drove her to her cardiology appointment, holding her fragile hand as she whispered about her fears of dying. "Promise me, Marlene," she said softly, "that you'll keep the family together when I'm gone." The words cut deep, because I knew Roman wasn't dependable anymore. That night, when I called him to update him about her condition, he brushed it off. "She'll be fine," he said. His voice slowed with laughter in the background. I wanted to scream at him, to make him understand the weight I was carrying, but I stayed quiet. I cooked her meals, bathed her when she could no longer walk alone, and read her Bible aloud when her eyesight failed. Roman never showed. Not even once. That absence would haunt me later. The funeral was a turning point. Charleston's oldest church bell tolled as mourners filled the pews, faces glistening with tears, the air heavy with lilies and grief. I stood in the front row clutching tissues, watching as the woman who raised us both was lowered into the ground. My heart shattered, not just for the loss of her, but for the pieces of family that seemed to die with her. Roman stood beside me, sunglasses shielding his eyes, acting the part of the dutiful grandson. But I knew the truth. He hadn't been there when it mattered. My uncle whispered that Roman had come in from Atlanta just hours before, wearing the same cologne he wore to nightclubs. It disgusted me. Still, I told myself that funerals had a way of pulling people back together. Maybe, I thought, losing her would make him realize what family really meant. But what happened next destroyed that hope. The day of the will reading, I arrived early at the lawyer's office, a manila envelope clutched in my hands with old letters my grandmother had left me. I was nervous but hopeful, thinking perhaps she had left us something to share, maybe a way to keep her legacy alive. Instead, I sat stunned as the lawyer read her words. Her home, her savings, even her jewelry, all were left in equal shares between us. My heart lifted because it felt fair. But then, a new set of papers appeared, with signatures that looked like hers but were not. Suddenly, the inheritance was no longer mine. Roman leaned back in his chair, a smug grin spreading across his face, as if daring me to challenge it. My pulse pounded in my ears. The lawyer said the documents were legally binding. I couldn't breathe. Betrayal burned hotter than grief, leaving me hollow. What hurt most wasn't the money. It was the erasure of trust. I confronted Roman outside the office, my hands shaking as I demanded answers. He shrugged, as though what he had done was nothing more than a business transaction. You wouldn't know what to do with it anyway, he muttered, his tone dismissive, cruel. My voice cracked when I reminded him of my years caring for our grandmother, of the nights I slept in a chair beside her hospital bed. That was your choice, not mine, he replied coldly. His words sliced deeper than the theft itself. I realized in that moment that Roman had buried the boy I grew up with. All that was left was a man ruled by greed, pride, and selfishness. I walked away, tears blurring my vision, clutching my grandmother's rosary like it was the last lifeline tying me to who we used to be. In the weeks after, I tried to rebuild myself. I picked up extra shifts at the diner downtown, scraping by with tips and exhaustion. My apartment grew colder, lonelier, as bills stacked on my kitchen counter like tombstones of dreams that would never bloom. Each time I passed my grandmother's old house, now Roman's by fraud, I felt a stabbing pain in my chest. I could almost see her rocking chair through the window, waiting for me to walk in. The thought that Roman could sit there without guilt, sipping whiskey and counting money that wasn't his, made me sick. Friends told me to fight back legally, but lawyers were expensive, and the law often favored those with connections. Roman had both. I had none. For the first time in my life, I felt truly powerless, until his desperate phone call changed everything, flipping the balance of power back into my hands. And yet, as I thought about his voice breaking on the phone, memories fought inside me. This wasn't just my enemy, it was my cousin, the boy who once stood up to bullies for me in middle school, who carried me on his back when I scraped my knees on gravel, who swore he'd always protect me. Where had that boy gone? Did he still exist, buried beneath years of greed and selfish choices, or had I imagined him all along? My grandmother had believed family could survive anything, but standing there with my phone buzzing in my palm, I wasn't so sure. The past we shared didn't erase the betrayal, but it made the choice more complicated. He needed me now, and every second that passed, I had to decide if I would save him, or let him drown in the consequences of his sins. Charleston's nights were quiet, the streets lined with moss-draped oaks that whispered secrets only the wind could carry. I drove past Roman's house one evening after his call, parking a block away, staring at the lit windows that used to feel like home. A shadow moved inside, and I wondered if he was lying in pain, truly waiting for my answer. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about power, justice, and legacy. Maybe my grandmother's prayer for me to keep the family together wasn't about forgiving. It was about showing him the cost of tearing it apart. My mind spun with possibilities, darker than anything I had ever imagined myself capable of. For the first time in my life, the question wasn't whether I could act. It was whether I would. The next morning, I woke with a decision. I wasn't going to let Roman off easily. If he wanted my blood, he would have to pay in more than money. He would have to pay in truth. As I sipped my coffee, the bitterness coating my tongue, I pictured the moment we'd meet. His face pale from fear, his arrogance shattered. I would see it in his eyes, the realization that his life now depended on the cousin he had betrayed. And in that moment, I would decide whether to hand him redemption or ruin. I set my cup down, the clink echoing in the silence, my heart steady as stone. The stage was set. Roman had taken everything from me, but fate had brought me the power to take everything from him in return. When I finally walked into St. Augustine's Hospital, the smell of antiseptic hit me like a wave. I clutched my purse tighter, each step echoing in the long, sterile hallway. My heart raced, not from fear of what I'd find, but from the fire of betrayal that still smoldered inside me. Roman had always been larger than life. Sharp suits, louder laughs, and a swagger that made everyone believe he was untouchable. But the man I was about to see was different. He was no longer in control. For the first time, Roman needed me. The irony tasted sweet on my tongue, but beneath it lingered a bitterness I couldn't swallow. My grandmother's words haunted me. Keep the family together. But maybe keeping the family together meant letting one piece fall apart. I stopped at his door, my hand hovering over the handle, wondering if I wanted to see him weak. The door creaked open, and there he was, Roman, the cousin who stole everything from me, hooked to machines that beeped and hummed like an orchestra of judgment. His skin was pale, almost gray, and the cocky grin I'd grown to hate was gone, replaced by lips cracked from dehydration. His eyes fluttered open, and for a moment, I saw something raw. Fear. Not the fear of pain, but the fear of mortality. He tried to sit up when he saw me, but the tubes and weakness held him down. "Marlene," he croaked, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer. Instead, I pulled the chair closer, deliberately slow, letting the silence drag between us. The power shift was intoxicating. I wasn't the one begging anymore. He was. And I wanted him to feel it. To feel the weight of every night I'd cried because of him. His life now rested in the hands he'd betrayed. He tried to speak again, but the words cracked, broken by his own pride. They said you're the match," he rasped, his eyes searching mine. I crossed my arms, leaning back in the chair, studying him like he was a stranger. A man who wore my grandmother's house like a stolen crown, who paraded her jewelry on women who didn't even know her name. "And why should I help you?" I asked finally, my voice low, steady. The question sliced through the room sharper than any scalpel. His face twisted, not from pain, but from humiliation. Roman was a man who had always commanded others, never begged. Now, stripped of wealth's armor and arrogance's shield, he was just flesh and blood. And he needed my blood. He opened his mouth, but all that came out was a weak, "Because your family." The words were a cruel echo of everything he'd made meaningless. Family. The word landed like a stone in my chest. How many times had I begged him to remember what family meant? How many times had I carried that responsibility while he ran from it? My grandmother's voice echoed in my head, her frail hand squeezing mine, whispering that promise. Keep the family together. But sitting in that hospital room, I realized keeping it together might mean breaking him before he could ever rebuild. I leaned closer, my eyes narrowing. "Family," I hissed. "When you forged her will. When you threw me out of the house I grew up in. Or when you blocked me like I was nothing." He flinched at my words, his hand trembling as he reached for mine, but I pulled it away. For the first time, Roman was forced to face the truth. Family wasn't just blood. It was loyalty, sacrifice, love. And he'd broken all three. His breathing quickened, panic flickering across his face as silence swallowed the room again. I let it sit, heavy, suffocating. "I need time," I finally said, standing. His eyes widened, desperate, like a child left in the dark. "Time." His voice cracked, raw with fear. I nodded, gripping my purse strap tighter. "You've taken everything from me, Roman. Maybe it's time you learned what it feels like to wait. To not know if the person you need will show up." His jaw tightened, his pride warring with his desperation. For a moment, I thought he might curse me, spit venom the way he used to when he didn't get his way. But instead, his shoulders slumped. "Please," he whispered, the words strangled, foreign on his tongue. I turned, hand on the door, not giving him the satisfaction of seeing my tears. For once, I was the one in control. As I walked down the hallway, my chest heaved with emotions I couldn't untangle. Part of me wanted to scream, to demand answers for every injustice he'd thrown my way. Another part wanted to crumble, to remember him as the boy who once defended me in the schoolyard. But the biggest part, the one that had been wounded, stepped on and erased, wanted him to suffer. The nurses glanced at me as I passed, their eyes filled with curiosity, maybe pity. They didn't know the story, the years of betrayal that brought us here. To them, I was just another visitor. But inside, I was judge, jury, and executioner. Outside, the Charleston air was thick with humidity, pressing down on me as I leaned against my car. My phone buzzed with messages from friends checking in, but I ignored them. There was only one question that mattered now. How far was I willing to go? That night, sleep was impossible. I lay in bed, the ceiling fan spinning lazy circles, my grandmother's rosary dangling from my hand. Memories collided, her laughter while baking pies, her gentle touch on my hair, the way she believed Roman and I would always be each other's keepers. She'd never imagined this ending, her two grandchildren torn apart by greed. I whispered her name into the darkness, asking for guidance, but silence answered. My mind replayed Roman's face, pale and broken, whispering, please, like a man who finally understood the meaning of loss. But was it real remorse, or just fear of dying? That question gnawed at me, kept me awake until dawn painted the sky pink and gray. By then, my decision hardened. Roman wouldn't get my forgiveness handed to him. He'd have to earn it, and earning it would come with a price he could never expect. The following morning, I drove back to the hospital, this time with a plan brewing in my chest. I rehearsed the words in my head, the way I would demand not just an apology, but a reckoning. Roman had stolen my inheritance, but he would not steal my dignity. I walked into his room with my chin high, my eyes steady. He looked weaker, the machines louder, the clock on his life ticking faster. His eyes lit up when he saw me, relief flooding his features. So, you'll do it? He asked, voice hopeful. I sat down, folded my hands in my lap, and met his gaze. Maybe, I said slowly. But not until you give me everything you owe me. Not money. Not the house. The truth. His face tightened, confusion flickering, then fear. He knew what I was asking for, and he wasn't ready to give it. His silence told me everything. He'd rather die than admit the darkness of what he'd done, the forged signatures, the lies whispered into lawyers' ears. But I wasn't leaving without it. I leaned closer, lowering my voice to a whisper sharp enough to cut. Your life depends on me now, Roman. And the only way I'll save you is if you tell me the truth about everything. Every deal, every lie, every name involved. No more games. His eyes darted to the window, anywhere but my face, as sweat beaded on his forehead. I waited, letting the tension choke the air between us. Finally, his lips parted, and the first words of confession slipped through. My pulse quickened, knowing I was closer than ever to the truth. But just as he began to speak, the door swung open, and what walked in froze my blood cold. The door swung open, and in walked a woman I had never seen before. She was tall, with dark hair pulled back into a severe bun, her heels clicking against the linoleum like a gavel striking in a courtroom. In her arms was a stack of files so thick it looked like she had brought the entire courthouse with her. Roman's face changed instantly. His pale skin flushed with something that wasn't quite relief but wasn't quite fear either. It was recognition, and recognition carried weight. She glanced at me, her sharp eyes sizing me up in seconds, before turning to Roman with the kind of familiarity that spoke of long, dirty secrets. We need to talk, she said coldly, as if my presence was nothing more than an inconvenient shadow. I didn't move. My instincts screamed that this woman wasn't just visiting. She was here to protect Roman's lies. Roman shifted uncomfortably, his hand tugging at the thin hospital blanket as though it could shield him. Not now, he muttered, his voice cracking. The woman set the files down on the small metal tray by his bed and folded her arms. Now, she said firmly, her voice carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed. Her eyes flicked back to me, lingering longer this time. And who is this? She asked, though I could tell she already knew. Roman swallowed, his throat working like he was swallowing nails. My cousin, he said hoarsely. She smirked, a humorless expression. Ah, the rightful heir. The words stung, not because they weren't true, but because they dripped with mockery. My fists clenched at my sides, my anger surging. Whoever this woman was, she knew far too much. And that meant she wasn't here for Roman's health. She was here to bury the truth. I'm Marlene, I said sharply, refusing to be dismissed like a child. The woman raised one brow, unimpressed. I know, she replied, her tone clipped. She turned back to Roman, lowering her voice slightly but not enough to exclude me. If you start talking now, everything we've worked for will unravel. Do you understand? You don't want to die a poor man, do you? My heart froze. We've worked for? That single phrase ignited a firestorm in my chest. Roman hadn't just stolen from me. He hadn't acted alone. This stranger was part of it. I stepped closer, my voice slicing through the room. Who are you? The woman smiled thinly. His attorney, she answered, though her demeanor was far colder, more calculating than any attorney I'd ever seen. Something told me she wasn't just about law. She was about control. And she was here to make sure Roman kept his silence. Roman's eyes darted between us, his chest rising and falling like a man trapped between two fires. I could see the panic brewing in him, the weight of secrets pressing down harder than his failing health. "I want her out," the woman snapped, gesturing toward me like I was an intruder in my own bloodline story. Roman hesitated, his lips trembling. For the first time, he shook his head. "No," he whispered. The woman froze, her sharp confidence cracking for a fraction of a second. "Roman," she hissed, leaning down toward him. "You don't know what you're doing." I stood straighter, my pulse pounding. This was my chance. "He knows exactly what he's doing," I shot back. "And so do you. You've been covering for him, haven't you? You forged the will with him. You helped him steal from me." Her eyes flickered, but she didn't deny it. That silence was my proof. The woman finally straightened, her voice calm but laced with venom. "Miss Harrow," she said, finally using my last name like I was someone worthy of respect only because I was a threat. "You don't understand how deep this goes. If Roman talks, he won't just lose his wealth. You'll be dragged down too. The estate isn't as clean as you think. The debts, the hidden accounts, the lawsuits waiting to surface. You want justice, but you'll drown in the same water he's sinking in." Her words twisted around me, heavy with warning. I looked at Roman, whose eyes glistened with tears he wouldn't let fall. For the first time, I wondered if my grandmother's fortune had been more curse than blessing. But then I remembered the nights I went hungry while Roman lived like a king. I remembered being shut out of the only home I ever knew. No warning could scare me off now. Roman shifted, his lips moving slowly, deliberately. "She deserves to know," he whispered, his voice cracking under the weight of the machines that kept him alive. The woman stiffened, her knuckles whitening as she gripped the side of his bed. "Don't," she seethed, her voice low, dangerous. Roman's eyes flicked to me, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I saw something close to honesty in them. Not redemption, not yet, but the start of it. "Marlene, the will wasn't just forged," he rasped. "It was bought." My breath caught, the words slamming into me like a truck. Bought. Meaning it wasn't just family betrayal, it was a transaction, a conspiracy bigger than just Roman. The woman moved quickly, slamming the file shut, her eyes blazing. "Enough," she barked. But I had heard it. And now the puzzle pieces were shifting into a picture far uglier than I had ever imagined. My knees nearly buckled, but I forced myself to stay upright. "Bought," I repeated, my voice trembling with rage. Roman nodded weakly, sweat beading on his forehead. "They paid someone in the courthouse," he murmured. "It wasn't just me. She..." His words cut off when the woman leaned over and pressed her hand firmly against his chest, as though to silence him physically. "He's delirious," she said quickly, her eyes locking on mine. "Don't believe a word." But I did believe him. Every broken syllable had carried the weight of a truth too jagged to be manufactured. My fists trembled at my sides. "You're lying," I spat at her. "Both of you stole from me. But now he's dying, and you're desperate. And I'm the only one who gets to decide whether he lives or dies." For the first time, I saw fear flicker in her eyes. The room was a war zone of silence and beeping machines. Roman gasped, his body trembling under the weight of both guilt and sickness. The woman glared at me, her jaw tight, her voice cutting like glass. "If you push this, you'll regret it. Walk away while you can. Let him die, take what little scraps are left, and move on with your life. That's the best you'll ever get." Her words were meant to terrify me, to shrink me down into the corner she had built. But I didn't shrink. I stepped closer, leaning over Roman, my voice shaking but strong. "No," I said firmly. "I'm not walking away. I want every truth, every lie, every name you've tried to bury. And I won't stop until it's mine." Roman's lips parted again, struggling to form words, but before he could, the woman's phone buzzed. She looked down, and her face went pale. The sound of that phone was unlike anything I'd heard before. Not just a call, not just a message. It was panic delivered through a vibration. The woman's mask cracked, just enough for me to see the shadow of real fear cross her features. She glanced at Roman, then at me, and for the first time, she looked uncertain. Without a word, she grabbed the file and turned toward the door, her heels clicking faster now, sharper, like gunshots in the sterile hallway. I wanted to chase her, to rip the truth from her hands, but Roman's weak voice pulled me back. "Marlene!" he whispered, his fingers trembling as they reached out. "There's more. You don't know who's really behind this." My heart pounded, each beat a hammer against my ribs. I leaned closer, desperate, terrified, but before he could finish, his monitor blared, the flat, piercing sound of his heart stopping. The sound of the monitor split me in half, a single flat note that seemed to last forever. My breath caught, and before I could move, the door burst open. Nurses and a doctor swarmed into the room, their bodies blocking me from Roman as they shouted medical terms I couldn't process. I stumbled back against the cold wall, my eyes darting to the hallway where the woman had disappeared with the files. Every instinct screamed at me to run after her, to rip the truth out of her hands, but Roman's body convulsing on the bed held me frozen. "We're losing him!" a nurse yelled, pushing down on his chest with sharp, rhythmic movements. My cousin, the man who had stolen my life, was slipping away before he could tell me the name I needed most. I clenched my fists, torn between vengeance and blood, between the truth and time. I pressed my hand over my mouth, muffling a cry as the crash cart rolled in, wheels squealing against the tile. A doctor barked orders, and a nurse handed him paddles slick with gel. "Clear!" he shouted, and Roman's body jerked violently as electricity surged through him. My stomach twisted. It was grotesque and mesmerizing all at once. The machine beeped again, briefly, weakly, before the line flattened once more. My heart pounded in my ears. I wanted him to die. I had prayed for it countless nights. And yet, watching him on that bed, I felt the strangest conflict. His death would rob me of justice. His silence would bury the truth forever. The nurse looked at the clock. 2 minutes down, she said grimly. 2 minutes. That was all it took to erase decades of betrayal, to silence him before he could confess everything. And still, I couldn't turn away. Then I remembered her. The woman, the attorney, the accomplice. My eyes shot toward the door, half expecting her to return, but the hallway outside was empty. Empty, but not harmless. Somewhere right now, she was walking away with the only proof that could rip this story wide open. My pulse hammered in my throat. If I left this room, I might lose my chance to know whether Roman lived or died. If I stayed, the woman would vanish into the city, files and secrets in tow. My legs trembled with indecision. And then, just as I was about to make a choice, I saw it. Something small, half hidden beneath the metal tray where she had slammed the file shut. A slip of paper, folded twice, its corner poking out like it was daring me to reach for it. The universe had thrown me a breadcrumb. My hands shook as I moved toward it. The doctors didn't notice as I snatched up the slip, my fingers closing around it like it was oxygen. I pressed it flat against my palm and stuffed it quickly into my pocket before anyone could see. "Clear!" the doctor shouted again, Roman's body jerking violently. This time, the monitor gave a hesitant blip, then another, then a weak, erratic rhythm. Relief rippled through the room, though it was fragile and uncertain. "We've got him back," the nurse announced. I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I was holding, my shoulders sagging with both dread and anticipation. Roman was alive, for now. Alive enough, maybe, to tell me what he had started to say. But as I slipped my hand into my pocket and felt the sharp crease of the folded paper, a new fear slid through me. What if this paper held the truth he had died trying to confess? The medical team worked with machine-like precision, adjusting tubes and medication, their voices a blur of terms I couldn't translate. I stayed plastered against the wall, invisible, my eyes darting between Roman's pale, sweat-slick face and the pocket that now held my secret. A nurse finally glanced at me, her voice firm but kind. "You'll have to wait outside, miss." I wanted to argue, to scream that this was my moment, that he was my blood and my enemy and my key to everything, but I swallowed the words. Fighting them now would get me thrown out. So I nodded stiffly and slipped out of the room, my legs unsteady. The hallway smelled of antiseptic and bad news. I pressed my back to the cold wall, my fingers trembling as they unfolded the paper. Whatever it said, I knew it would either save me, or destroy me. The handwriting was hurried, sharp, almost frantic, as though written by someone who feared being caught. Just 3 words, scrawled across the page like a wound: check safe deposit. My breath caught, my chest tightening. Safe deposit? Where? Which bank? My mind spun with possibilities. Was this the breadcrumb I needed, or another trap laid to confuse me? I folded the paper back quickly, stuffing it deep into my pocket, as footsteps echoed down the hall. I snapped my head up, my heart skipping. A nurse walked past, wheeling equipment, but for a split second, I thought it might be her, the woman, the accomplice. My paranoia was growing, feeding off every shadow. I leaned against the wall, trying to breathe, trying to make sense of what I'd just read. If Roman survived, he might tell me more. But if he didn't, this scrap of paper might be the only map I had. My phone buzzed in my pocket, startling me. I pulled it out with shaking hands, the glow of the screen harsh against the sterile lights. A text from an unknown number blinked back at me. "Leave it alone, Marlene. For your own good." My heart lurched, icy fear sliding down my spine. Someone was watching me. Someone who knew what I had, what I'd seen. I glanced up and down the hallway, but the nurses and visitors milling around seemed ordinary, harmless. Still, the message confirmed it. This wasn't just about Roman anymore. It was bigger, darker, reaching beyond the walls of this hospital. I shoved the phone back into my pocket, my resolve hardening like steel. I wasn't backing down. Not now. Not when I was this close. Whoever sent that message thought they could scare me into silence. They didn't know me at all. Silence was no longer an option. I pushed off the wall and started down the corridor, my footsteps echoing with new determination. If Roman pulled through, I'd wring every detail from him. But if he didn't, I'd find that safe deposit box myself. I didn't care how many lawyers, accomplices, or shadows stood in my way. They had taken my inheritance, my stability, my family name, and now they thought they could take my voice. Not anymore. I walked past the nurse's station, my head held higher than it had been in years. A new fire burned in me, one I hadn't felt since before Roman stole everything. It wasn't just revenge anymore. It was survival. I reached the end of the hallway, ready to leave, when a voice stopped me cold. "Marlene!" I froze. Turning slowly. A man stood there, tall, dressed in a gray suit that didn't belong in a hospital. His eyes locked onto mine. For a moment, neither of us moved, the hallway between us stretching like a battlefield. He was older than me, maybe late 50s, with silver hair slicked neatly back and eyes so sharp they could cut glass. He smiled faintly, though it didn't reach his eyes. "You don't know me," he said smoothly, stepping closer. "But I know you. And I know exactly what's in your pocket." My breath caught, my hand instinctively pressing against the folded note hidden inside. "Who are you?" I demanded, though my voice wavered. His smile widened, though it was more threat than warmth. "Let's just say," he replied, his tone chilling, "I'm the man your cousin was too scared to name." My pulse thundered in my ears. The mysterious puppet master. The shadow Roman had feared. He was standing right in front of me. And he knew everything. His presence filled the hallway like smoke, unseen yet choking, impossible to ignore. I stared at the man in the gray suit, my chest tightening with every word he spoke. He knew about the paper in my pocket, the safe deposit hint, the thing Roman had almost died protecting. My throat was dry, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my teeth. "Who are you?" I whispered again, louder this time, though my voice still shook. He took another step forward, his shoes clicking against the polished floor, his eyes never leaving mine. "Names don't matter," he said, his voice low and deliberate. "But what matters is that your cousin was only one piece in a game much larger than you can imagine." His words sent a shiver down my spine. Roman had been terrified of him. Now I understood why. I wanted to back away, to put distance between us, but my feet refused to move. His stare pinned me like a specimen under glass. "Roman thought he could hide money, documents, favors," the man continued, his lips curling in disdain. "He thought betrayal had no consequences. But you? You're smarter than him. You're already holding what could save or end you." My hand twitched against my pocket instinctively. He noticed, and his smile deepened. "You've read it," he said calmly. "Good. That makes my job easier." My stomach knotted as I realized this wasn't a chance encounter. He had been waiting for me, following me. I wasn't just stumbling into shadows. I was already surrounded by them. For the first time, I understood that this wasn't about family anymore. It was war. "Why me?" I asked, my voice breaking with a mix of anger and fear. "What do you want from me?" He tilted his head, studying me as though I were a puzzle piece he hadn't yet placed. Because you're the blood, he said finally, almost reverently. The only one Roman trusted enough to leave behind a clue. The only one stubborn enough to dig. His eyes narrowed slightly. And because you're predictable. Vengeance makes people reckless. His words hit like a slap. Was I predictable? Maybe. But I wasn't stupid. My pulse quickened as I realized he was baiting me, testing how much I already knew. I straightened my shoulders, forcing my voice steady. Then tell me, I said, my tone harder now. What's in the safe deposit box? His eyes glinted dangerously. Everything, he said softly. The hallway seemed to shrink around us, the hum of hospital lights growing louder in my ears. Walk away, he said suddenly, his voice cutting the air like a blade. Take what's left of your pride, your anger, your broken little life, and leave this alone. If you don't, he paused, leaning closer until his breath grazed my ear. You'll wish Roman had taken more than your inheritance. My skin crawled, but I forced myself not to flinch. My whole life had been about running. From grief, from betrayal, from the ruins Roman left behind. But something about his words, his certainty, set a fire in me. He thought he could scare me into silence. He thought I was weak. Not anymore. I straightened, my eyes locking with his. I'm not walking away, I whispered. For the first time, I saw his smile falter. The tension snapped like a whip. His eyes hardened, and for the briefest moment, I thought he might strike me right there in the middle of the hospital. Instead, he stepped back, adjusting his cufflinks with calculated calm. So be it, he said evenly, though his jaw clenched tight. But understand this. Truth has a cost. And the people you think you can trust will bleed for your stubbornness. His words cut deeper than I wanted to admit. My mind flashed to my mother, frail in her retirement home, her savings already gutted by Roman schemes. My few friends who had stood by me when I lost everything. Were they in danger now because of me? The thought made my stomach twist. He turned to leave, his silhouette sharp against the hallway lights, but before disappearing, he added coldly, "Don't look for me. I'll find you." Then he was gone. I stood frozen, my body trembling like a live wire. Around me, the hospital bustled on, oblivious to the exchange that had just shifted the ground beneath my feet. Nurses laughed softly at the station, visitors whispered in waiting chairs, and yet I felt as though I were standing on the edge of a battlefield, the war drum pounding in my chest. I slipped a hand into my pocket and touched the folded paper again, its edges biting into my skin. Safe deposit. Everything. His words echoed in my skull, colliding with Roman's rasped warning. The truth was within reach, but so was the danger. I wasn't just avenging myself anymore. I was up against something vast, something that could crush me if I made one wrong move. And yet, my fear didn't push me away. It pulled me closer. I pushed through the doors into the cold night air, needing space to breathe. The sky above the parking lot was a dark, endless sheet, the stars swallowed by city lights. My breath fogged as I exhaled, each cloud vanishing like the fragile safety I once knew. I thought of Roman lying in that bed, machines forcing life into his veins, and wondered if he would wake to regret or to silence. I thought of the man in the gray suit, his voice dripping with power, his threats too precise to ignore. And I thought of myself, a woman stripped of family, fortune, and respect, now standing at the crossroads of fear and fury. Every fiber of me screamed that if I stopped here, if I obeyed, I would never forgive myself. My inheritance was gone. My cousin was broken. But my resolve? My resolve was untouchable. I pulled out my phone, ignoring the trembling in my hands. I searched for every local bank within 20 miles, writing down names in a fury. Safe deposit boxes weren't common anymore, but they existed. Somewhere out there, Roman had left behind the key to all of this. Money, documents, maybe even proof that would bring his accomplices down. I didn't know what I'd find, but I knew this much. I was going to find it before they did. A sudden buzz in my phone startled me. Another text from the unknown number lit the screen. "You're making a mistake. Don't open it." My heart skipped. They were watching me, closer than I realized. I stared at the message, then typed back with shaking fingers, "Too late." My thumb hovered before I hit send. The decision felt like leaping off a cliff. And then I pressed it. Almost instantly, a reply flashed across the screen, one word that froze my blood: "Run." My stomach lurched, my eyes snapping up as headlights flared in the distance. A black SUV turned into the hospital lot, its windows tinted, its speed too deliberate to be casual. My breath caught, my legs already twitching to move. The man in the gray suit hadn't left me with a choice after all. He had drawn the line, and I had stepped over it. The SUV slowed near the entrance, the air around me thick with the promise of danger. My heart hammered in my chest, my grip tight around the phone as I shoved it into my pocket. Whatever waited inside that safe deposit box, it was enough to make them hunt me down. Enough to make them kill. I backed into the shadows, my pulse racing. And then I ran. The air cracked with panic as the SUV's headlights cut across the parking lot, blinding me. My instincts screamed louder than thought. I bolted, my shoes slapping against the asphalt as I weaved between parked cars. My chest burned, every breath scraping raw, but fear pushed me faster. The roar of the engine followed, steady and predatory. They weren't honking, weren't yelling, they didn't need to. Their silence was worse, deliberate, like a hunter letting its prey run just far enough. I ducked low, heart rattling, and slid behind a dented minivan. My reflection in its window was a ghost, wild eyes, tangled hair, sweat streaking my face. I clamped a hand over my mouth to muffle the ragged gasps, listening to the slow roll of tires on pavement. The SUV crept closer, circling like it knew I had nowhere to go. My fingers dug into the metal frame, desperate for something solid. The parking lot stretched like an open field of danger, every car a flimsy shield. I darted out from behind the van, crouching low, and sprinted toward the back exit gate. The wind tore at my jacket as gravel bit into my shoes. A voice inside my head screamed, "Don't look back," but I couldn't resist. One glance over my shoulder revealed the SUV surging forward, headlights flaring like twin suns. My pulse spiked, terror mingling with adrenaline. I reached the gate, fingers clawing at the rusty latch, tugging hard until it snapped open. I stumbled through, slamming it shut behind me, though I knew it wouldn't hold them. The alley beyond was narrow, dimly lit, lined with dumpsters that reeked of rot. I ran, my shadow stretching and twisting along the brick walls, the echo of my footsteps deafening. Somewhere behind me, the gate groaned as it gave way. They were still coming. The alley spat me out onto a wider street, empty except for a shuttered laundromat and a flickering neon sign from a 24-hour diner. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but I forced myself forward, eyes locked on the diner. Bright lights meant people, and people meant witnesses. If I could just make it inside, maybe they wouldn't dare follow. My fingers curled tight around the paper in my pocket, the last thread Roman had left me. The word bank seared into my mind like a brand. This was bigger than me, bigger than my inheritance, bigger even than Roman's betrayal. It was the kind of secret people killed for, and now they wanted me silenced. I shoved through the diner's glass door, the little bell above chiming weakly. Warm air, greasy food smells, and the low murmur of strangers wrapped around me, a sudden cocoon. For the first time that night, I exhaled. I slid into a booth near the back, trying to appear calm, though my hands trembled against the laminated menu. A waitress with tired eyes poured me coffee without asking, her pen poised over her pad. "You okay, hon?" she asked, her voice edged with suspicion. My lips parted, but the truth stuck like glue. If I said too much, I'd sound insane. If I said too little, she'd send me back outside to wolves. "Just tired," I whispered, forcing a smile. She didn't believe me, but she nodded anyway, moving on. I cradled the steaming cup, staring at my distorted reflection in the dark liquid. The SUV was still out there, watching, waiting. And if I stayed too long, I'd be a sitting duck. I pulled out my phone and searched bank locations again. One name kept appearing, tied to Roman's old neighborhood, Jefferson Trust Bank. My next destination was clear. Slipping out of the diner was harder than getting in. Every nerve was on edge, convinced the SUV lurked outside. I asked for the restroom key, disappeared through the back hallway, and instead pushed open the emergency exit. The alarm shrieked, but I was already gone, sprinting into the dark. My car was 3 blocks away, tucked in an unlit corner near an abandoned strip mall. My pulse spiked as I fumbled with the keys, cursing every second wasted. Finally, the engine roared to life. I peeled out, tires screeching, heart thundering louder than the radio static. The streets blurred past in streaks of orange and white, streetlights flashing like warnings. My eyes darted to the rearview mirror every few seconds, expecting to see the black SUV. 4 miles. Nothing. Empty roads. Quiet night. But silence could never fool me again. They weren't gone. They were just letting me think I'd escaped. I drove for hours, circling, doubling back, checking every mirror and shadow. Paranoia gnawed at me, but it was better than being caught. Finally, near dawn, I pulled into a motel off the interstate. The neon vacancy sign flickered like a dying heartbeat. I paid cash, keeping my head low, and shut myself inside a room that smelled of mildew and smoke. For a moment, I let myself collapse on the bed, the thin mattress sagging beneath me. My body trembled from exhaustion, my mind spinning with fragments of everything I'd learned. Roman's inheritance theft, the man in gray, the paper pointing to a safe deposit box. None of it was random. Each piece was part of a puzzle someone didn't want solved. I pulled the note from my pocket again, tracing the faded ink. Jefferson Trust Bank, Box 112. My cousin had left me a key to the storm. Sleep refused to come. Every creak of the motel walls, every slam of a car door outside, jolted me upright. I sat in the dim glow of the bedside lamp, piecing Roman's motives together. He hadn't just stolen from me. He had stolen something far more dangerous from someone else. Something worth hiding in a bank vault. Something worth killing for. But why me? Why leave the clue with me, the cousin he had betrayed so deeply? Maybe he thought guilt would protect me. Maybe he thought blood was thicker than money. He was wrong. It hadn't protected me. It had painted a target on my back. By sunrise, I had decided. No more running. I would find Box 112, open it, and drag whatever secrets lay inside into the light. If Roman wanted me to finish what he couldn't, then I'd finish it with fire. Jefferson Trust Bank stood in the center of Roman's old neighborhood, its red brick facade unchanged from when we were kids. The parking lot was empty, the morning sun casting long shadows across the pavement. My stomach tightened as I parked across the street, watching the bank's glass doors. I half expected the SUV to appear, or the man in gray to step out, waiting. But the street was quiet, deceptively calm. I took a deep breath, shoved the paper into my jacket, and crossed. The bank loomed larger with every step, its windows reflecting back a distorted version of myself. Worn, bruised, but unbroken. Inside those walls was Box 112, the truth Roman had died protecting. My pulse quickened, the sound of my footsteps pounding louder as I reached for the handle. For the first time in days, I felt something sharp and dangerous flicker inside me. Hope. The glass door swung open easily. Too easily. The first thing I noticed was the silence. No hum of computers, no shuffle of papers, no voices. The second was the smell. A faint tang of smoke and dust lingered in the air, wrong for a place like this. My shoes clicked against the marble floor as I stepped inside, my eyes scanning the empty teller windows, the overturned chair near the entrance. My chest tightened. Something had happened here. My gaze swept toward the back, toward the private vault section. The heavy steel door that should have been sealed shut now hung ajar, its frame blackened, the keypad scorched. My heart plummeted. Someone had already broken into the vault. Box 112, the one Roman had bled to protect, was gone. I stood frozen in the doorway, the weight of failure pressing down like iron. And then behind me, the door clicked shut. The sound of the door locking echoed through the bank's hollow silence, loud enough to make my pulse jump. My throat dried as I spun around, every muscle tensing. That's when I saw him, stepping out of the shadows between the teller stations. The man in gray. His suit was impeccable, not a wrinkle in sight, though his expression was colder than stone. His eyes were pale, almost colorless, as if the life had been drained from them years ago. He smiled faintly when our gazes locked, like a cat finally cornering its mouse. "You run well," he said, his voice smooth, deliberate, like velvet stretched over knives. Roman was the same. Always darting. Always hiding. But he was never fast enough. My stomach knotted, every instinct screaming to run, but there was nowhere left to go. My hands curled into fists at my sides, though I knew fists wouldn't save me. I forced my voice to steady, even though my insides shook. "What do you want?" I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt. His smile widened, but it wasn't kind, it was mocking. "Want? No, Ms. Darrow. I'm not here to want. I'm here to take. You've already seen that Roman left behind fragments, pieces of something he shouldn't have touched, and you, by accident or fate, are standing in the middle of his mess. My heart thumped hard against my ribs. The vault's already been hit, I snapped, gesturing toward the blackened steel door. If you're looking for box 112, it's gone. You're too late. His head tilted slightly, as if studying me like a puzzle. Too late? Or just in time to see how much you really know? His words sent an icy shiver down my spine. He didn't believe me. Worse, he thought I was holding something back. I shook my head, anger cracking through my fear. Roman betrayed me. He stole everything I had, and now he's dead. I don't know what was in that box, and I don't care. I want out of this nightmare. For a second, his expression flickered, just a shadow of doubt, gone as quickly as it appeared. He stepped closer, his polished shoes clicking against the marble. You care, he whispered, low enough that I had to lean forward to hear. Because you're still breathing. If you didn't matter, they'd have let you die in that parking lot. My breath caught in my throat. They. Not just him, others. A whole network behind him. My fear sharpened into something else. Rage. Then kill me now, I spat, surprising myself, because I won't spend the rest of my life running from ghosts. His laugh was soft, cruel, and it filled the empty bank like smoke. You think this is about you, he murmured, circling slowly, his gaze never leaving me. That's your first mistake. This was never about inheritance, never about property. Roman took something that didn't belong to him, something he thought would make him powerful enough to break free. And now you, he paused, eyes narrowing. You're his insurance policy. My stomach twisted. Insurance policy? I repeated, my voice trembling despite my defiance. He leaned closer, his breath brushing my cheek. Bloodlines, Ms. Darrow. That's all you need to understand. Roman had no one else with your match. My knees weakened, the pieces clicking together in my head. My blood type. That's why Roman's death had triggered this. Not because I was his cousin, but because my blood carried something they wanted. I stumbled back, shaking my head. You're insane, I whispered. But deep inside, I knew he wasn't. I glanced toward the scorched vault, searching for an opening, a weakness, anything. He followed my eyes and smirked. Go ahead. Run again. You'll only make this more entertaining. His arrogance burned through me, stoking a fire I hadn't known I still had. You don't scare me, I lied, every inch of me trembling. His eyes glinted with amusement, as though he could see straight through the bravado. Good, he said simply. Fear clouds judgment. Courage, even false courage, keeps the game alive. His words slithered into my ears, but I forced myself to focus. Behind him, a fire extinguisher hung on the wall, its red body gleaming under the fluorescent light. My pulse quickened. It wasn't much, but it was something. My palms grew slick with sweat as I calculated the distance. If I moved fast enough, maybe I could buy myself time. Time was all I needed. With a surge of adrenaline, I lunged toward the extinguisher. My fingers wrapped around the cold metal, yanking it from the bracket as the man in gray lunged forward. I swung hard, the extinguisher's weight jarring my arms, connecting with his shoulder. He grunted, stumbling back a step, surprise flashing in his pale eyes. Before he could recover, I squeezed the handle, a blast of white foam shooting out and clouding the air between us. He cursed, shielding his face, and I ran. My shoes pounded across the marble floor, heart hammering like a drumline. I shoved through the side emergency exit, the alarm blaring, echoing into the empty street. The morning sun seared my eyes, blinding me, but I didn't stop. I didn't dare look back. My body moved on pure instinct, pure survival, fueled by one thought alone. I had escaped, but not for long. I zigzagged through side streets until I collapsed behind a row of dumpsters, chest heaving. The world blurred, sounds muffled by the blood rushing in my ears. My hands shook violently, the extinguisher burn still raw on my palms. Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them back, forcing myself to breathe. He had called me an insurance policy. He had spoken of bloodlines. Roman had left me clues, not to torment me, but to prepare me. Maybe he had known this day would come. Maybe he had known they'd come for me when he was gone. My anger steadied me, hardened me like steel. I wasn't just a pawn in Roman's game. I was going to finish it, no matter what. Still, one truth dug its claws into me. If box 112 was gone, then whoever had stolen it now held the upper hand. And I was already running behind. When I finally staggered to my car, my legs still trembling, I nearly missed the detail that made my blood run cold. My jacket felt heavier than before, weighted down on one side. My fingers slipped into the pocket, pulling out a folded photograph I hadn't put there. My breath caught in my throat as I unfolded it. Staring back at me was a black and white photo of two men. One was Roman, younger, smiling in a way I hadn't seen him smile in years. The other was a man I knew all too well. My father. He was standing shoulder to shoulder with Roman, holding up a small glinting key. The same key to box 112. My entire body went numb. My father, the man I had trusted more than anyone, had been tied to this from the start. My hands shook as the photo slipped from my grasp. Nothing would ever be the same. The photograph trembled in my hands, though it felt heavier than lead. My father's face stared back at me, younger but unmistakable, with Roman by his side. The key between them glinted like a curse, mocking me with its silent truth. My chest burned with betrayal, and I wanted to scream into the night sky. My father, the man who had taught me about honesty, about strength, had been a liar all along. The photo didn't just show a memory. It shattered everything I thought I knew. I leaned against the hood of my car, the morning air sharp in my lungs. The man in gray hadn't slipped that picture into my pocket to scare me. He had done it to reveal the truth. My father wasn't just connected to Roman. He was the foundation of everything Roman had built, every deal, every betrayal. And now, I was tangled in the roots. Sleep was impossible that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my father's face. Not the man I remembered, but the stranger in that photograph, smiling alongside Roman. By dawn, I was pacing my apartment like a caged animal. Questions clawed at me, relentless. How deep had my father been involved? Did my mother know? And why would my cousin, after stealing my inheritance, leave behind clues that led me back here? As the city outside woke up, horns honking and sirens wailing, I made a choice. I wasn't going to wait for answers to fall into my lap. If my father had lived a double life, there would be traces. He'd been careful, yes, but not perfect. And I knew where to start. The garage, the place where he had spent countless nights tinkering with tools, claiming it was just to keep his hands busy. Maybe those hands had built more than engines. The garage smelled faintly of oil and dust when I stepped inside. Sunlight filtered through the cracked blinds, painting the concrete floor in stripes of gold. I moved past his workbench, cluttered with old wrenches and bolts, my heart pounding. He had always been meticulous with his tools, but his papers had been another matter. My eyes darted toward a dented filing cabinet in the corner, one he had always kept locked. As a child, I had thought it just held boring tax records. Now, with shaking hands, I forced the drawer open. Folders spilled out, receipts, invoices, ledgers. But tucked in the back was something stranger, a worn leather journal, edges frayed, as if handled often. My pulse quickened as I opened it. Inside were pages of neat handwriting, dates spanning decades. Some entries looked ordinary, lists of chores or mundane notes. But in between were symbols, initials, and strange phrases that made my skin crawl. One phrase appeared over and over, scrawled in different inks across years. Blood runs thicker when spilled. I recoiled, goosebumps racing up my arms. The same words the man in gray had whispered in the bank. My father had known them, had lived by them. Flipping further, I found entries about meetings with Roman, about debts that had to be cleared, about someone called the benefactor. The more I read, the clearer it became. My father hadn't been an innocent businessman. He had been entangled in something vast and dangerous, and Roman had carried that legacy forward. I sank into his old work chair, clutching the journal as though it could strangle me. All my life, I thought my cousin's betrayal was about greed. But now it looked like survival. Roman hadn't stolen from me out of spite. He had stolen because he had no choice. Because whatever my father started had never ended. The walls seemed to close in as I read. My father had mentioned names, but most were cryptic, initials paired with cities. DC, LA, HT. I recognized none of them. But one entry stopped me cold. 112 must remain sealed. The key passes to Roman if I cannot. Marlene must never know. My vision blurred as I read the words again. My father had wanted to keep me out of this. He had buried me in ignorance while grooming Roman to inherit not wealth, but responsibility for whatever cursed secret lay in that box. My hands trembled so hard I nearly dropped the journal. My whole life, I had envied Roman for being the chosen one, the golden boy. But the truth was uglier. He hadn't been chosen for privilege, he had been chained to a burden. A burden he tried to escape, and in doing so, he had dragged me into its shadow. A knock at the garage door jolted me upright, heart leaping to my throat. I froze, clutching the journal like a weapon. Slowly, I peered out the window. An older man stood there, weathered face lined like cracked leather, his frame thin but solid. I recognized him instantly. Harold Bishop, my father's old friend, who used to come around when I was a child. I hadn't seen him since my father's funeral. Hesitantly, I opened the door. "Harold?" I asked. His eyes softened, but his jaw clenched tight. "You found it, didn't you?" he said, nodding toward the journal. My skin prickled. "What do you know about this?" He sighed, stepping inside, his boots scraping against the floor. "I know your father wasn't the man you thought he was. He made deals to protect you, Marlene. Deals with devils. Roman was his shield, but when he fell they turned to you." His words cut like glass. I sank into silence as Harold explained. My father had gotten involved with a shadowy syndicate in the 1980s. Men who had the power to make and break fortunes. They weren't after money alone. They controlled people through leverage, through blood. "Your father owed them," Harold said grimly. "And when he couldn't pay with cash, he paid with loyalty. Roman was brought in because he had your father's trust. But Roman, he wasn't built for that kind of weight." I stared at Harold, struggling to breathe. "Then what's in box 112? I asked, my voice cracking. Harold's eyes clouded with something between fear and pity. "Not money. Not jewels. A ledger. A record of names. Powerful names. If it ever sees daylight, entire empires crumble. That's why Roman tried to run. And that's why they won't stop until they have it. Because whoever controls those names, controls everything." My chest heaved, the words hitting me like a blow. A ledger. Names. That was the inheritance Roman had stolen, the legacy my father had shielded me from. My entire life had been built on a lie, and now it threatened to bury me. Harold gripped my shoulder, his eyes sharp. "Marlene, you need to burn that journal before they find it. Every page ties you closer to them." But my grip tightened on the leather cover. No. If I destroyed it, I destroyed my only link to the truth. My father's secrets, Roman's downfall, the man in gray, all of it led here. And something deep inside me, stronger than fear, told me that running wasn't enough anymore. I needed to face them. I needed to finish what my father had started, even if it killed me. Because for once, ignorance wasn't protection. It was chains. And I was done being chained. Later that night, I sat in the dim glow of my father's desk lamp, the journal open before me. My fingers traced over the final pages, which grew more frantic, the handwriting jagged, uneven. My father had been unraveling, consumed by fear. One entry in particular stood out, written only days before his death. "The key is not the end. 112 does not guard gold, but a name. The name that changes everything." My heart lurched. He hadn't written what the name was, only that it had the power to change everything. I closed the journal, my chest heavy, my eyes burning. Roman had died chasing freedom from this curse. But me? I had no choice now. Because the name inside box 112 wasn't just their weapon. It was mine too. And if I could find it before they did, maybe I could finally turn the tide. The bank's fluorescent lights hummed above me as I stood before the vault. Key clutched so tightly it left marks in my palm. Every step toward box 112 felt like stepping into quicksand. Harold's words echoed in my head. This wasn't wealth I was chasing. It was power, a list of names that could topple giants. But more than that, it was my father's final legacy, the truth he had tried to bury. My breath shuddered as I inserted the key and turned. The metal door swung open with a soft groan, revealing a single leather envelope. No gold, no jewels, nothing that screamed fortune. Just an envelope marked with one word: inheritance. My hands trembled as I slid it out. This was it. The thing Roman had died for. The thing people were willing to kill me for. The thing my father had sworn I must never see. I tore it open, and the world tilted. Inside was a neatly folded sheet of paper, fragile with age, but the ink still bold. My eyes scanned the words and then froze. At the top was a single name, written larger than the rest: Senator Ellis Granger. My stomach dropped. He wasn't just any politician. He was the man who had spoken at my father's funeral, who had shaken my hand with warm eyes and told me my father was a hero. Granger was a household name, the face of reform and justice. But here, in my hands, was proof he was no savior. Below his name stretched a list of others: judges, CEOs, officers, names tied to crimes, debts, and betrayals. My father hadn't been protecting me. He had been protecting them. Roman had tried to run, but you don't run from people like this. My fingers curled around the page. This wasn't just an inheritance. It was a weapon. Footsteps echoed behind me. My blood turned to ice. Slowly, I turned to see the man in gray stepping into the vault, his smile thin as a blade. "So you found it," he said softly, his eyes glinting. "I wondered if you had the courage." My pulse pounded in my ears, but I forced myself to stand tall. "You killed Roman, didn't you?" I asked, voice shaking but sharp. He tilted his head, not denying it. "Roman was weak. He wanted out. But you..." He gestured toward the paper in my hands. "You have your father's fire. You could do what he never did. Keep the balance." My fists clenched. Balance. That was their word for control. For corruption. For blood. My father had played their game, but I wouldn't. "No," I whispered, my chest heaving. "I won't be your pawn." His eyes hardened, and I knew then. He hadn't come to bargain. He had come to silence me. He lunged, but I was ready. The journal I had carried with me became my shield, its thick leather cover slamming into his arm. He cursed, stumbling back, but his hand was already reaching for the gun tucked under his coat. My heart roared in my chest. Without thinking, I shoved the paper deep into my jacket and bolted. The vault's alarm blared as I shoved the door into his face and sprinted down the sterile hall. Every second stretched like eternity. I could hear his footsteps pounding after me, each one closer, louder, hungrier. But then, a sound that saved me. Sirens. Red and blue lights flashed through the glass doors at the end of the corridor. My chest heaved with relief and terror. Someone had tipped them off. Maybe Harold, maybe fate itself. The man in gray slowed, his smile gone. His eyes filled with fury as the officers stormed in. I gave my statement in fragments, my voice shaking as I handed over the envelope. The officers looked at me with skepticism, but when their eyes scanned the names, their expressions shifted from doubt to shock. One of them, a woman with sharp eyes, whispered, "This could take down half the state." My knees nearly buckled. This was bigger than me, bigger than my father, bigger than Roman's greed. It was a rot buried deep in the bones of power. And somehow, I had been chosen to dig it out. As they led the man in gray away in cuffs, his eyes locked on mine, promising vengeance. But I wasn't afraid anymore. For the first time I understood my strength. My father had lived in shadows. Roman had died in them. But I would drag those shadows into the light. Even if it cost me everything. Especially if it cost me everything. The following weeks blurred into a storm of trials, headlines, and whispers. Senator Granger's face plastered every screen, his empire crumbling as evidence poured out. CEOs resigned. Judges vanished. One by one, the names from that paper became exposed, their crimes dragging them into the light. And every time I saw their downfall, I thought of my father's journal, of the phrase that haunted him. Blood runs thicker when spilled. He had believed it meant loyalty to the syndicate. But I chose to believe it meant something else, that the blood spilled by betrayal, by lies, was never stronger than the truth. Roman's death had not been in vain. My father's lies had not silenced me. Instead, they had ignited a fire. For the first time in my life, I wasn't running from my bloodline. I was rewriting it. I wasn't their victim. I was their reckoning. Harold visited me one quiet evening. His shoulders heavy but his eyes proud. "Your father would be proud," he said softly, though we both knew it wasn't the whole truth. My father had been a complicated man, one who had chosen survival over honor. But maybe pride wasn't about perfection. Maybe it was about redemption. "No," I told Harold, my voice steady. "He wouldn't be proud. But I think he'd be relieved. Because it ends with me." Harold nodded, slipping the journal back into my hands. "Then write the ending yourself," he said before leaving. I sat alone, staring at the pages, and felt the weight of choice pressing down on me. I could keep the journal, hold on to every scar and secret, or I could burn it and let the past rest. Slowly, I struck a match. The fire roared, and with it, the ghosts of my family finally crumbled to ash. As the flames licked away the ink, I felt lighter. Not free, not yet, but lighter. My cousin's betrayal, my father's secrets, the syndicate's threats, they had tried to crush me. But they had only forged me into something harder, sharper. I wasn't the girl who had been robbed of an inheritance anymore. I wasn't the grieving daughter blinded by lies. I was Marlene, the woman who had faced her family's sins and turned them into a weapon of truth. And in that truth, I found my strength. I stepped outside into the night, the sky endless and wide, and for the first time, I didn't feel trapped beneath it. I felt infinite, untouchable. My story wasn't just survival. It was victory. And though the fight wasn't over, I knew now. I wasn't afraid of their names. Because mine was stronger. And that's the story of how my cousin's betrayal led me to uncover the darkest secrets of my bloodline, and how I turned them into my strength. If you felt the rage, the heartbreak, and the triumph in my journey, don't let it end here. Stories like mine remind us that truth can rise from the ashes of betrayal, and justice can come even when it feels impossible. So if this story moved you, if it made you gasp, cry, or cheer, I invite you to be part of this journey beyond the screen. Hit that like button, share this story with someone who needs to feel the fire of resilience, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful tales of betrayal, revenge, and redemption. Your support means the world, and it keeps these stories alive. Until next time, remember, shadows only win if we let them.